Little elves. I can see you grow weary. How much longer can you hold out? Flee and save yourselves.
Liadrin, don't.
Light be with you. You see? She understands it's hopeless. Soon, you all will.
What if I told you the biggest conflict in the Warcraft community isn't Horde versus Alliance, but Elf versus Elf? For almost 20 years, Blizzard has struggled with the Blood Elves and the High Elves. With the Midnight expansion on the horizon, we're standing on the edge of Blizzard's greatest lore trap. This isn't just about story, it's about identity, and Blizzard risks tearing apart one of the most passionate parts of its player base. When Blood Elves became playable in the Burning Crusade, the Horde finally got a refined, magical race, but it came at a cost. On the Alliance side, the High Elves, a people with roots going back to Warcraft's earliest days, were suddenly stranded in lore. They had leaders, they had history, they were still in the world, but not playable. And here's the crucial break. After Xal'atath renamed his people Blood Elves, Lor'themar Theron, as regent, enforced that new path. High Elves in Quel'Thalas, who refused to follow the Blood Elf direction, and the Horde alignment were banished, exiled from their homeland. Many scattered to Alliance territories, cementing their identity apart from the Horde. They weren't nobodies. Vereesa Windrunner, the youngest Windrunner sister, became the face of the Silver Covenant, an Alliance High Elf faction introduced in Wrath of the Lich King. Vereesa was everywhere, leading in Dalaran, clashing with the Sunreavers, and later helping reunite Alleria with her son, Eretor and Legion. She kept High Elves visible and Alliance-aligned for years. And yet, whenever players asked to play as Alliance High Elves, Blizzard's answer stayed the same. That would blur the faction lines. Meanwhile, Blood Elf identity started to unravel. At the end of the Burning Crusade, the Sunwell was restored. No more fel dependence, no more mana starvation. The core of the Blood Elf fantasy, a people driven by desperation and fel magic, vanished overnight when the Sunwell was restored. But Blizzard left them exactly as they were in-game, without changing anything. They still called themselves Blood Elves, yet fel magic was no longer needed, and shadow magic was forbidden, since the Sunwell now channeled pure light and arcane. In practice, they became Horde High Elves. Result? The Horde had playable elves who read like High Elves, while the Alliance had High Elves in the lore, led by Vereesa, but still couldn't play them. Then came Legion and Blizzard's boldest, most controversial move, Void Elves. Here's the truth people forget. Void Elves weren't High Elves by origin. They were banished Blood Elves, exiled from Silvermoon for dabbling in the Void. They would have been destroyed, until Alleria Windrunner intervened, saved them, and taught them to master the shadows. Only then did they become Void Elves and join the Alliance. This is where the identity crisis exploded. Blizzard gave Void Elves the customization options that players had been begging for in Alliance High Elves, making them the Alliance's playable Thalassians. But the cost was severe. The true High Elves, those who refused Lor'themar's path and were exiled, were effectively erased from the playable roster. Meanwhile, Blood Elves, originally the corrupted Horde Elves who relied on fel and shadow magic, could no longer follow that path because the Sunwell had been restored, and such magic was forbidden. Then the Void Elves joined the Alliance, embracing the corrupted powers that had once defined the Blood Elves, essentially becoming the true Blood Elves, but on the Alliance side, under a new name. That stings because High Elves aren't a footnote. They fought beside humans in the Troll Wars. They stood with the Alliance in the Second War. Their allegiance predates the Scourge, predates Arthas corrupting the Sunwell, predates Xal'atath renaming his people. Now those High Elves, represented in lore by Vereesa and the Silver Covenant, risk being painted as traitors to Quel'Thalas, while Void Elves, born from exiled Blood Elves, are handed their legacy. For Alliance fans, that isn't a twist, it's erasure. And Blizzard split elf identity one step further, the Darkfallen. Darkfallen are undead elves, Sylvanas' Dark Rangers among the Forsaken. They're now even playable through customization options for Blood Elves, Night Elves, and Void Elves. Their legacy ties directly to Sylvanas Windrunner, the third sister. With midnight approaching, it's widely expected she'll make at least a cameo, meaning, for the first time, we could see all three Windrunner sisters together on screen. Vereesa, the face of Alliance High Elves, Alleria, the leader of the Void Elves, Sylvanas, the Banshee Queen, emblem of the Darkfallen. On paper, that's incredible. But here's the trap. Thalassian elven identity is now shattered across 4 groups. Blood Elves, High Elves, Void Elves, and Darkfallen, and all threads run through the Windrunners. Mishandle this and Blizzard risks alienating everyone at once. Blood Elf fans feel betrayed in the lore, as the playable Void Elves now inherit the role of corrupted, fel-wielding elves. The original Blood Elves, once defined by their struggle with fel magic, are now effectively portrayed as uncorrupted High Elves in the story. High Elf fans feel frustrated and overlooked, having waited decades for playable High Elves only to be given Void Elves instead. Void Elf players know their race functions as a stand-in that displaced High Elves, Darkfallen risk being treated as a cosmetic footnote instead of a meaningful arc. At the center, the Windrunner Sisters, who could either unify this fractured tapestry or prove how far Blizzard has lost control of its own lore. So here we are. After 2 decades of retcons and rewrites, Blizzard hasn't solved the elf dilemma. They've multiplied it. And with midnight looming, everything points to the Windrunners. Vereesa, the last loud heartbeat of Alliance High Elves. Alleria, the Void's champion. Sylvanas. In midnight, Blizzard must face Lor'themar's choices and the fractured Elven Legacy. Blood Elves, High Elves, Void Elves, and Darkfallen each carry their own story. At the center are the Windrunner Sisters, Vereesa, Alleria, and Sylvanas, whose reunion could finally unite the elves. If Blizzard succeeds, Midnight could redeem Elven lore. If they fail, the knot could shatter completely. On Azeroth, you don't mess with the elves.
Comes to devour everything. And when it is finished, there will be no more light. Without your aid, we will perish. I beg you, help us. The Sunwell will not fall!
Not while we draw breath.